Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Qualified Podcast. With me today, I have David Bowie with his business, Schmicko. It is a mobile car detailing based in Australia. David, thank you so much for joining me and being on the interview today.
No, thanks for giving me an opportunity. But yeah, happy to be on here finally. So let's get the ball rolling.
Excellent. So, give us a background on yourself. Where were you born? Grew up? All that good stuff.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Sydney, Australia. But my background is Vietnamese. Um, yeah, it's pretty much lived here my whole life. Same sort of area. So where we live is a lot of. I guess we're probably considered the first or second gen of refugees here. But yeah, it's pretty much a big, pretty big Asian community where I'm from. So it feels pretty homey to me. Yeah.
Awesome. For you, what would you say is the best thing about Sydney?
I'd say that it's not too congested. Like everything's pretty spacious and laid back. Compared to the US or Asia, everything's like sensory overload. But Sydney, as you can see, is just a lot more spacious, a lot of greenery. So you get a good mix of nature strips and um, you know buildings and whatnot. So it's more laid back.
Anybody in your family a business owner that you could, get info from or kind of inspiration?
So I'm the only one that runs a business in the family. Although my oldest brother did try to start a business back in the day, but didn't quite turn out too well. Like usually they say 101 is try not to do business with family or friends. So he did it with a good friend of his. They are still friends, but I guess everything sounds good ear to ear over a beer conversation, but in reality, it doesn't quite work out the way you want it to go. But if I put it now, yeah, I don't really get advice from any friends or family in that regards.
You just kind of learn as you go or find everything online?
Yeah, you pretty much learn on the fly. I think we're very lucky these days that there's a lot of good content on YouTube, podcasts, and whatnot. So it's a matter of finding the time to listen and experiment.
Absolutely. I know personally when you started your business, but tell everybody else when you started and what was your reason for it?
Yeah, so we started probably in 2018/2019 because I know BK was fairly new at the time. Um, I've always wanted to sort of create my own business, um, but I guess the biggest wake up call to me was my dad got a bit ill back when I was working full time, and it sort of acted as an eye opener for me personally because you start to value time more important as a more important commodity than let's say money and so on. But I think money helps you to buy back time. And with that mentality, it's sort of reverse engineered into thinking, okay, well, the only way you're going to get that sort of control of freedom is by running your own business. Now, I did have a good paying job and a great team, so it was a tough decision. But it definitely helped to know that I had a friend who opened their own cleaning business back then, and they were pretty much ahead of me. They've already quit their full time job and taken the plunge of doing this full time. And they were initially with Launch 27, which is similar platform to you guys, but he moved from Launch 27 to Book and Koala. And that's when he sort of gave me a sort of a breakdown. Go, hey, you should try this platform because this is how I'm automating my business. This is how it's working. So he was pretty much me in the future, and he's been there, done that, made all the mistakes. So that definitely helped inspire me to start.
I remember you were one of our first, under 50 signups and one of the longest who have stayed with us till today. So we definitely appreciate that. And you could see that being not in the home cleaning space, but in mobile detailing, that it does work for other service business is not just home cleaning, and you've been in it from basically the start. So you've seen all the changes throughout the years and how it does work for that service business. How much did you invest when you first started?
Yeah, I honestly it's such a long time ago, but I think it was along the time, along somewhere along the lines of 5 to 10k. But I think the main investment was more or less time. A lot of learning, and like you said, booking quality has come a long distance from where it first started. A lot of changes, good change that is, a lot of updates. So yeah, I think it was just about a 10k investment, and with a lot of learning and adjusting to booking quality platform.
Awesome. Challenges. What have been some of the biggest challenges that you faced over the last 6, 7 years?
Yeah, look, we've encountered a lot of challenges. Like in Australia, we had unprecedented levels of rain. Like everyone thinks Australia's really dry, which is true. At one point, we had bushfires, water bans. So how can you do a car wash or a car detail without water? Like a lot of flooding happened a couple of years ago during the La Nina climate. So there are some challenges being a mobile service where majority of our services are performed outdoors. So those are beyond our control. But I guess one way to get over these things is sort of diversify. So we expanded into Melbourne, not just Sydney. That way, we're not putting all our eggs in one area. But Melbourne, their climate's a lot worse than ours. They get all 4 seasons in one day. So is it the
Really?
best decision? Well, so far it's proven to be a good decision. But I think the idea is you do need to sort of diversify your risk. But one thing I really want to highlight internally, in terms of the biggest challenge, is keeping your mental game on point. Now, running a business sounds cool from the outside, but you are working alone at the very beginning. So I think being able to withstand multiple um, or consecutive losses, because you're always experimenting, you're seeing what works, what doesn't work. So you need to sort of see through that and be persistent, I guess.
And during COVID, when it first started, the shutdowns in Australia were some of the strictest, if not the strictest, in
Yeah.
the entire world. So, how was that trying to, 2 years into your business,
Yeah.
trying to handle all that while your restrictions were so tight?
Yeah. Funny that you brought that up. We had to shut down business as well. And like you mentioned, there were strict guidelines. Now, I actually took the chance to sort of double down on, I won't say it's an opportunity, but rather than sit back and sort of complain about, okay, we're shut down, I'm just going to wait. I actually invested more budget into marketing because I knew everyone would be on their computer. So I had a great attention span to our demographic, our target audience. And not only that, one of the guidelines was that we would be able to operate our business if it was deemed an essential business. Now, yes, we do car detailing. People still need to use their cars. So we actually introduced a new package where it allowed us to sanitize the vehicle. So we use like things like a ozone generator, which helps to disinfect the vehicle. Use proper safe disinfectants, hospital grade disinfectants that were car friendly. So that allowed us to operate. So what we may have lost in our main, core business, we were able to sort of expand to a new package tailored to the COVID situation. And so that allows us to work with businesses and a lot of families. A lot of people have little ones, babies, and young ones. So obviously their motive for having a car detail is not so much about aesthetics, but more about hygiene and cleanliness. So that allowed us to sort of take advantage of that opportunity and help people run their daily lives, right? So they can, drive to wherever they need to be. So yes, it was a tough time, but I think we stayed proactive and were able to pivot in the right direction.
Excellent. Competition. How many competitors are in your area, and What are you doing differently from them?
Yeah, so like with any business, there's always going to be competition. There's actually a lot of competition in Australia, but it doesn't really phase me because we're different in many ways. A lot of them are like solo detailers, or we also have businesses where they have multiple detailers as well. But to put it simply, we differ mainly because we have an amazing pool of talent, and we have a robust sales team. So they may offer the same services, but more importantly is who is doing the service and who is handling your phone call. So that's what makes the magic work. We handle the customer inquiries from the entire sales process, from them asking their first question all the way to having their book performed and post care advice. So sounds simple, but it works. But competition is heavy, and I still think it's getting heavier, which keeps me on the ball and thinking more creatively there. So
Managing your time is a lot, with family, and obviously you don't have a full-time job anymore, but when you started, that was something that you had to take into account. What are your tips? What do you do to prioritize and manage your time effectively?
yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Fortunately, when I first started, I was single, so didn't really have too much going in my life, right? And I just had an abundance of free time. But now that things are a bit different, married now, don't have kids yet, but I'm still in the mindset that I'm still in that hustle mindset. I'm still fairly young, well, 35 or turning 35 this year, but I still think I've got many long years ahead of me, enough legs. So I think over time you learn to become more efficient with your time. So um, I like to prioritize my time more effectively to focus on management or managerial type of decisions. So a great way is to sort of prioritize what are the easy wins that we can accomplish with the least amount of effort. And I think that's just the way to sort of manage your time. But also work-life balance is important. So I make time for exercise. Sleep is probably so underrated. I get like a minimum 8 hours of sleep, whereas my partner, she gets 6 hours of sleep, but she operates fine. But maybe that's the secret formula. But I think that's what allows me to do what I do. Is I get enough rest and I get enough play time, like leisure time, and also get enough time to do work. But work time is um, work on efficiency, so automations, delegation. That has been my main focus moving forward, as opposed to, let's say, like 5 years ago when it was just like, what do I need to do? Like, how do I set up? How do I build the protocols and procedures? So nowadays, just ironing, tightening loose screws, and tightening the ship pretty much.
The big difference between starting and 5 years later is that in that beginning stages, you're doing everything, right? Your sales, your customer service, your marketing, you're doing it all. Now, 5 years down the line, 7 years down the line, X years down the line, you're like you said, you delegate. That's the best way to do it. You take the most important tasks, focus on those, and just hire people to fill in the other spots so that you can buy your time back, right? And
Yeah.
I know you personally are a big basketball fan, so exercise for you is, going to the court, playing, and I guess hanging out with buddies and shooting around, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Leadership style with everybody that you have hired, how would you describe yours? What's your leadership style like?
Yeah, I think I'm a bit of both. I can be like easygoing, but I think most of the time I'm more of a pretty cutthroat. I don't mean that in a bad way. I think you need to have a good blend where you need to sort of lead staff in the right direction, but you also need to hold each other accountable. So I'm patient to see development results. But if, let's say, for example, we get multiple mistakes happening over and over again, then I have to really lay my foot down and be like, hang on, why is this happening over and over again? But you need to give time for people to learn and sort of adjust, I guess. So I guess I'm sort of a bit of both. Can be very patient, but also I have to be pretty tough on my guys. I think that works. You sort of do have to micromanage at the very beginning, but over time they become more autonomous. I'm not really managing as much. I'm sure they appreciate that. So I don't have to really say that I trust them. It sort of shows as we progress forward that I don't have to jump into conversations as often unless it's like a complex situation. So yeah, my leadership's pretty much a hybrid, I'd say.
I feel like that's a nice way to have it, not necessarily lean towards all into one or the other, because you can have success with one and not with the other. But having a good balance is definitely, I believe, key to
Mm.
keeping everybody happy as well as productive, right?
Yeah.
And it also helps you manage setbacks. How going into that now, how do you manage your setbacks, failures? Do you even consider them failures if you have them?
Yeah, I think you put it in a great way. Like, do you consider it as failures? Look, setbacks is always going to happen. I view setbacks the same thing as competition. You can do the best you can. They're always going to prop up. But the main important thing is how quick are you to action and move on from this? Are there really real problems? Like, are they things that you can control or are they beyond your control? I think that's the first step is find the root cause. And just, yeah, I think, look, actually, I won't say I think, I know setbacks and failures are part of the recipe to earn, to gaining success. That's what makes your business more resilient, right? If it just took one problem to knock your business out of the water, then your business is not really built on much. So I think it really does toughen it up.
And if you get lucky starting a business and getting, you know, success with, let's say, marketing, and the first ad that you put out is super successful, and the first two, three, four contractors you hire are fantastic. And then what happens when you hit the first setback, right? Like you said, can you
Mm.
handle it? Can you overcome that? Or is everything going to come toppling down because it was so easy leading up to that point? And now you get to that point and it's like, well, how do I handle this?
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, right, it does build resilience in your business to overcome. So I don't think it should be viewed too negatively, but just take it as a learning opportunity, I'd say.
Absolutely. You know that it failed, that it didn't work. So now when you go into it next time, you could already be like, well, I'm not going to try that because it didn't work. And
Yeah,
you can maybe tweak it in a certain way. Like maybe I'll go the complete opposite and it'll work, or go 50% of that and see if that works and just adjust from there.
yeah, I agree.
Motivation, maintaining that drive, you kind of touched base on that already, but
Yeah.
what's your key to keeping that? Is that your work life balance? Is it going to play basketball? Is it your spouse? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's both. It's to stay motivated, you gotta have, I guess, both the short term and long term perspective. My long term perspective is, the reason for having business is to have time and freedom. How do I use that time and freedom? Well, to travel. So my partner and I love traveling. We travel often, but we can't do that every week, right? So something's got to fill in the gaps during the next trip, and that's where basketball, going on dates, really fall into place, right? It's just the small wins that you appreciate. And I think by having that balance, it helps you to sort of not burn out and just completely think about work all the time. You got to have that time to sort of sit back and relax. And like what my friends like to say is, you got to stop and smell the roses every now and then. I do travel pretty often. I travel pretty much every 3 months abroad, which is pretty frequent. But for me, I like to hustle hard during those 3 months, and then I'll take a 2 week break. But it also helps that my partner's also a teacher, so she gets a lot of holidays. So I think the main thing is you got to have that self reward system in place. Otherwise, it's going to burn out, and that's how you sort of may stay motivated. And you probably travel yourself. When you go abroad, there's a massive culture shock, culture difference, and it sort of makes you
Absolutely.
appreciate. yeah, and it makes you appreciate what you have here or appreciate what they have over there. And so that sort of drives me to, I guess, stay on track. Right?
Travel is definitely a big thing that I too look forward, and I wish I could go every quarter,
Yeah.
maybe in the near future, but definitely is like you hit it on the head right there. It's something to look forward to and then utilize that time when you're gone to take that break and indulge in that culture that you're wherever you are and just spend that time being there versus having your mind somewhere else.
Yeah. Sorry, is it a bit loud? Can you hear the? Is it?
A
Can you
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just. We're getting the house renovated, so there's might be some background noise. So I do
That's all
apologize.
right. No problem. What have been some important lessons that you have taken from in the last 7 years?
Um, I think the number one thing is take calculated risk. Like there's benefits in playing safe, um, but you do have to take calculated risks every now and then. And I think the one thing I know it sounds stupid, but excuse my French here, but I always say always plan for fuck ups, right? So if things don't go according to plan, have a contingency plan on how can you redeem yourself. So if you do take calculated risk, at least you've got a backup plan to come through. So don't aimlessly try, 100 different things. I think just narrow it down to two or three experimental strategies, test it out. If it works out, double down. If it doesn't, chop it off and move forward to your winners. So fail fast, learn, and improve. I think that's the best way to do it. And delegation is definitely key, depending on which part of your business cycle you're really up to. Like if you're just starting off, you said it perfectly well before. You're wearing many different hats. You're the marketing guy, sales guy. Uh, Back then, I was also the detailer as well. All right, that's not even my profession. I did it for a year just to learn the ins and outs of it, so I could understand what were realistic expectations for my technicians, what sort of packages I should have. So yeah, you just got to get your hands dirty and experiment and learn from it, I guess.
Another side of that would be how you take decision making and problem solving, right? Like you just said, you were a detailer for a year. You needed to
Yeah,
figure out what pain points would be for your detailers as well as customers too if they weren't satisfied. So
yeah.
now being years in, what is your approach to those decision making and problem solving things that you do?
Yeah, so I briefly brushed upon it a bit earlier, which was is it beyond our control or is it not? Now, if it's within our control, like let's say, for example, we get a lot of cancellations. I do have a cancellation report that I track and I go across that week to week. And we just need to figure out, okay, well, is it based on weather? Is it because of we don't have enough availability? If we don't have enough availability, that means we have a skill shortage. We don't have enough technicians. Then I know, okay, I've got to turn this nozzle to hire more guys or girls, right? More technicians, in other words. So I think it just really comes down to if you can control it, then understand is it worth to fix? Because not everything is a problem, right? If sometimes customers have feedback, we take it on board and we break it down into okay, how can we convert this into an opportunity, or is it just them saying, well, the weather was really bad and you couldn't cater to my availability? Well, I can't control the weather, and no one else can. So I think we just got to put our mental effort into the winners, prioritize, rate a priority for each and every task. That helps to decision make. What I've done more recently is I push that decision making on my team as well. It keeps them inclusive of our decisions, helps them be more integral to the business, but more importantly, helps them to become better problem solvers. Right? They're the ones that deal with customers face to face more often than I do. So the better become in handling these problems, they are more accustomed to dealing with customers when they speak over the phone. Because half the time we're problem solving, right? It may not be big problems. It may just be like what's the best package? Or this happened to my car. What can you do? So them being able to problem solve on a large scale should also help them with everyday conversations. So that's what I've tried to delegate as well to the team.
Well, with your team now, do you have contractors or employees?
Yep, we do have some employees, but mainly contractors. So whatever we comfortable with employees gets pushed off to contractors.
So your main team that does the work is not office staff, but the ones who are doing the details, they're mainly employees,
Contractors.
contractors,
Contractors, yeah.
contract. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, yeah,
Oh yeah, I don't know how it is in the US as well, but I think we have similar laws in terms of using contractors, which is um, they supply their own goods and supplies equipment. So I wouldn't say it's us trying to shut off responsibility, but it gives them an opportunity to take ownership of their own business. So how I like to see it is you're not the boss of me and vice versa. We're in this together. So we try and help them make better decisions, and we help them find more customers. So I think that's why we like to take the contractor route for this.
what about office staff? How many office staff do you have, and then how many detailers do you have?
Sure. So we have about, I think, 25 to 30 contractors on the road, technicians, and we have 3 on the sales team, customer service, and then also we have marketing agencies that help out, and then we also have my own accountant, another bookkeeper. So we hire bits and pieces here and there. So yeah,
In the US, Indeed, Facebook, and back in the day, Craigslist was a big site for, finding applicants. Where do
yeah,
you focus your hiring being in Sydney?
yeah. Well, Facebook and Excel would have been a great avenue, but we actually delegate that to another hiring agency because they handle. I don't know how they find the workers for us, and that might be their secret sauce. I'm not going to question it, but it helps us anyway. So we're helping their business, they help ours. So I'd rather focus on other areas of the business. So I actually leave it to them to sort of go through all the qualifications, pretty much filter out all the candidates, and then I'll do the final interview, trial, and so on from there. So, yeah, I don't know how they find it, but I'm guessing it's online sources.
But they're doing well, you've said. And is your turnover high in that case? I'm assuming no, because if it would be, then you wouldn't be using them.
Yep. Look, we do get candidates come through, but I don't know how it is. I've spoken to my friend who also runs his cleaning business, and we have the same, I won't say dilemma, but one of the challenges of running a business is staff turnover. I think it could be industry related. I don't know, but there can be high turnover with some, but it's just like customers. You can have good and bad customers. They can tick all the boxes during your interview, during your trial, but after the first 3 or 4 months, it doesn't quite work out. Let's say they're not punctual to their bookings, or it's not as great. So it's not a bad thing to have a high staff turnover. Yes, it does create headaches here and there because you have to invest time, but you are essentially pulling out the loose hair, right? So you're going to have a robust team at the end of the day. You got to put the weeds. So it's just part of business. It's part of running a business. That's fine. But they do good. They do a good job. The hiring agency, but staff turnover is. I think every business will have that. That not just any industry will have that same issue there.
And it seems to be so because I thought maybe it would be a location issue, whether it be US only or US and Canada, or
Yeah,
maybe just specific to one industry like home cleaning. But it
yeah,
seems like just the service industry in itself, when you hire, regardless if it's contractors or employees, hiring is a big issue, right?
yeah, yeah,
So it's almost refreshing to know that it's not just one specific area and
Yeah,
not one specific industry, just all those industries worldwide. It seems to be the same thing.
yeah.
Sucks because it's one half of the biggest part of your business.
Mm.
The other is finding customers, but business isn't easy, right? So you got to deal with things that are tough, and that's definitely one of them. What would be an automatic red flag in an application for you? I know you use the agency and they kind of pass it down to you once somebody's ready, but
Yeah,
when it
yeah,
gets to you, like what would you be like automatically no?
sure. Yeah, so like before, I find time to be very important. So can they make time for a conversation? Right? And that's how it works. Like if they value your time, then they'll make time to have a discussion or do a trial. So usually we organize a trial wash. We pay them for this as if it's a real customer. So that way I can see them in their natural habitat, natural state. If I told them this is a trial or paid trial, they could, pass with flying colors. So one of the red flags is, are they punctual? Are they well presented? Can they show a conversation? Equipment does matter, but that can be fixed and changed, right? Some people may invest in a basic setup and improve over time, which is probably the smarter way to do things. Um, you sometimes have people have, like in basketball, some people come to the court with all the gear, and what do you say? You say all gear, no idea, right? And that's the same thing with some of these technicians. They could have the best equipment, but what is the work ethic? So some of those things is being able to have a normal one-to-one conversation to understand what their attitude is like to work, to customers. I think they are the main things you look out for. So if they don't um, fulfill those quite well, then you may have a red flag there.
What about flip side? What's an ideal candidate look like to you? Would it just be that checks all the like fantastic conversation for you, or is it more than that?
Yeah, I think having that conversation, right? Because being able to, because that translates to how they interact with the customers. These technicians are going to be the forefront. They're going to be the face of the business, right? You work behind the computer or manage your internal staff, but you're not out there conversing with customers. So it is crucial that they leave a great first impression and everlasting impression at the end of the day. So I think mannerisms is so highly underrated, and of course work ethic. And let's face it, in cleaning and car detailing, there's no guarantees. Like we all know that not every stain can come out, right? How do you explain it to a customer that certain stains or certain blemishes aren't treatable but can be minimized? You got to have that awkward discussion with the customer, and if they can handle an awkward conversation with you, then you can have utmost confidence in that they can handle customer pretty well, right? So and that's what customers like transparency. Like no one wants to be sold, over promise and under deliver. So I think that's why mannerisms and work ethic are probably the two main things we look out for.
For me personally, I would just like to know, in your experience, who is more picky with not a complaint, but like a stain like that. So you would say a stain that or blemish that's in a seat that can't come out, and you're
Yep.
going to a customer who has a high end car, $200,000 or $100,000 plus.
Yep.
Would they take it easier or harder versus somebody who would have like a $50,000 car? Who would kind of, in your experience, who is kind of more touchy with that?
I guess it goes both ways. Actually, no, I would say those with a lower valued car would have uh, be more sensitive to the situation. Why? Because the dollar means more to them than someone who's wealthy may value their time more than monetary value, which is why they hired you. I don't want to worry about my car. You're the professional. You do it. Whereas a customer who has a lower value car, the dollar means more to them, so they may have high expectations for the value that you delivered. But I don't think it comes down to whether someone's wealthy or not. What really closes the gap is, well, irrespective of their background or demographic or earnings, income earnings, is are we educating the customer enough, right? It could just be a matter of, okay, you ordered the wrong package. If there's a stain in the vehicle, a vacuum would not fix that. You'd actually need a shampoo. Now, that's where we say, okay, this is our process for treating stains, and this is why you can't get stains out all the time because number one, do you know what it is? Do you know how long it's been there? Sometimes it changes the textural integrity of the fabric. Let's face it, not every stain comes off your shirt. Now, same sort of expectations applies to your vehicle. So sometimes it comes down to educating the customer in a nice way that's not condescending, but just saying, hey, look, this is what needs to be done, and this is why it needs to be done. One of the key ways to know is when a customer, for example, if you don't really know the country too well, people tend to use the word wax and polish interchangeably, but they're two separate, completely different tasks. So when people use them in the wrong context, we sort of understand, okay, they don't really know too much about cars, and that's where we understand, okay, we need to sort of educate them. Like it's just the words they use, you can sort of tell if they know the cars very well or not, and it's just about bridging that gap in education.
Wax comes before the polish.
It's actually the other way around. So yeah, so the
See,
polish,
I learned something new.
yeah, so the polish contains abrasive. So think of it as liquid sandpaper. It's going to sand down the surface. That's how you smoothen it out. And the wax is what protects your finish. So you put on after, you seal in that finish. That's the best way to put it. Yeah. So when someone uses it interchangeably, it's just like I always tell my sales team, like that's like that should be like an alarm bell. Like, hey guys, we need to sort of educate the customer, and they value that education. That's what it gives us an opportunity to prove that, okay, we know our stuff. Without how do you prove yourself as an expert without saying, hey, I'm the expert? That's a perfect example. Solve a problem, right? Teach them something new, and I think that really works really well.
And what you said earlier too is the way they would tell the customer, right? Not in a demeaning way or kind of laughing at them as they're explaining it, but just be
Mm,
like, oh, hey, just so you know, for next time it goes XYZ because of this, that. And exactly like you said, if somebody told me that way, I would appreciate them so much more. And I would definitely look at them as like, okay, you are professional in your approach and you are the professional in your field.
definitely, and I think being able to explain it in layman terms, without sound too technical, because some of the car detailing terms, there's a lot of jargon, which is why I mentioned before, like if you come with a stain from a shirt, everyone has that dilemma, right? It's so relatable. And you're like, hey, you know what, you're right. I can't remove some stains from my clothes. They get old over time. It's not going to look as new as before. If your car's 20 years old, you can't expect to look brand new, like a showroom finish, right? So that's where we sort of need to align expectations.
Absolutely. Uh Sticking with hiring real quick, are you always hiring or do you kind of just turn it off and on when you need it?
Yeah, so for the first few years, it was just like we hired when we needed to. But since then, I've decided to change an approach because I think it's always valuable to have an abundance of a workforce because we do have those cancellation reports I mentioned before, and time again, we're always losing bookings because of availability. No one can do it to tomorrow. So um, to answer your question, we're always hiring. I won't say we're actively seeking all the time, but we do have ads out there to promote our business, to hire. But yeah, I think we're always constantly hiring.
Going to the other side that I mentioned, right? Now the marketing side, what are you currently doing for marketing? Did you I don't know if you mentioned earlier that you said you had a marketing team in-house or you outsource your marketing.
Yes, we outsource the marketing. We've done both. We've used agencies, we've used in-house. So simply we use like online platforms, paid ads, SEO, email marketing campaigns, things we control like gift cards, coupons, discount codes, handouts. Those are what we usually focus on for our marketing. I have to admit our social media marketing has been lacking, so that's sort of my aim for this year. In the past, I used to do a lot of SEO myself. It got to a point where I learned so much to the point where I think I could run my own agency. I was thinking of that as a side hustle, but decided to scrap that. And even though I was doing a lot of it myself, it just came to a time where you need to delegate those to an agency or an individual. Whether you prefer in-house or an agency, both come with their pros and cons. Like you can use a freelancer that work with you all the time, but agencies have clear-cut processes, so it might be more lean, more efficient. So you may not get as many hours from them versus a freelancer. So it just really depends. And yeah, that's pretty much what we use for marketing. You can go either in-house or external. I think neither is a bad option.
What would you say has been your most successful marketing campaign that either you in-house have done or an agency has done for you?
I couldn't credit to one in particular because our growth was it was slow and steady. There was no real spike. The only time it did spike was when we came out of COVID. And I don't think it came down to the strategy. It was just pretty much everyone was on the computer or the phone more often, right? So you couldn't go out. What do people do? They either watch Netflix or they're on their phone. So I couldn't really credit to one thing. Social media, we haven't really explored to its full potential. But I think paid ads work generally well because you can track your metrics. And if it's not working, you can sort of A/B test it until you find the right ad copy. I'd say, yeah.
Decision making and data. How do you leverage your data into what you're gonna, do in the next coming months or the coming year?
Yep. So data plays a big part of our business. I'm actually a very data driven person in general. It helps us to construct reports. So a lot of reporting I do, like I know book followers offer reports as well. I take that one step further into putting into like, for example, Google Sheets. I like to see graphs, tables, seeing the last week, last fortnight, last month, last quarter, break it down by per service category. That really helps you understand where the low hanging fruit is. Um, uh, yeah, like it helps you to segment your market. So ask simple questions like, what's the color of your vehicle? You might think, well, that's a pretty basic question. But if you're doing an email marketing campaign, you have a red car. Well, what if I showed you a red car of your exact car make and model? I've shown you an example of what your car could look like with our service. And you might think, hey, what a coincidence. That's my car, right? So collecting those small details really plays a difference. And you may not know this, but different car colors are harder to maintain. For example, black, red, they fade very fast, hard to maintain. Whereas a white car, they're a lot easier to maintain. So I could build an email marketing campaign on, do you have a black car or red car? Chances are after 4 years or 3 years, you probably know some fading happening. If you want to give it a renewed facelift, well, come to us. So small data metrics or small like questions like that really help us build messages for whether it's ad copy, email campaigns. So it's just a follow-on through effect.
Industry trends. How do you follow those? Stay on top of that, or do you not even care as much for that?
I do track industry trends, but that more goes towards like I like to invest in the stock market. So it doesn't really play a role in the business, but I do read about the car industry, automotive industry. But I don't think it really. The only metric I really do follow is like car sales marketplaces. You get an understanding of what's the general consensus. Do people still have a strong appetite for buying and selling cars? Because a lot of our business comes down to present us preparing the car so that it's ready for sale. So that sort of helps. We also had a time where there was large delays in brand new vehicles. I think there was a the computer shortage. Like for example, the
The
chips,
chip
computer
shortage.
chip shortage. So mobile phones, smartphones, cars, and etc. There's a huge shortage. Like that's why Nvidia is just gone through the roof. Right? There's this chip shortage. AI is the next big thing. Uh, a lot of our business does come from brand new vehicles because we also do window tinting. So that's predominantly on brand new vehicles that affected our business. So it doesn't change our strategy, but it just gives us an idea of what's coming around the corner. Um, if there's a shortage in window tinting, well, there's no point putting more budget in window tinting. We can't control that market. Just put that budget into car detailing instead. People might be buying secondary cars more often than brand new cars. So that's sort of how we leverage our data. Industry trends.
With Are there any networking events in your area that you go to, or do you just skip out on them?
Yeah, networking, I'm pretty lazy. I won't say I'm lazy to the extent where like I'm not bothered. It's just I'm a very introvert person. Like I may not appear it maybe over across this interview. When we talk about business, then I'm completely different, and that excites me. But when it comes to meeting new faces and networking events, I'm not the type of person that just goes out my way and go, hey, my name's David, and small talk. I do try to go to networking events. My friend runs networking events himself because he's a pretty big accountant in Australia. So I do try to sort of attend those events. But if I had to say, I'm lacking heavily in the networking style networking events.
Partnerships with other businesses, your buddy's cleaning service or anybody else. Do you have any, or do you kind of just focus on your thing and not really others?
Yep, I have considered in the past, but never went through with it. Uh, Partnerships can be great in terms of expanding and whatnot. I get that. But those are one of the things where you can't control their business. That's their baby, right? Schmicko's my own baby. Uh, you can't tell them how to do their business as well. So if I just try to stay lean and effective, and I control what I can, and that's my own business. So I've just kept it simple that way. Maybe in future we can consider, but for now it's just no partnerships for now.
Just focus on your thing. What about customer loyalty? How do you try and enhance that and turn everybody that's booking one-time details into recurring?
Yep. Okay. So I like to compare this with the cleaning industry, home cleaning. I think home cleaning is a lot more frequent. Right. People value their homes more than their cars. Why? Because they live in it, and it's worth a lot more. Now, surprisingly, for the car industry, the frequency is not as high. Um, the main reason people get the deep car service is because, for example, they're preparing for sale, or they just bought a new car, second-hand car, and wants to feel new again. Those are the main motivations behind it. So to tell them to have it done on a monthly, fortnightly, weekly basis, probably not as realistic. Maybe with company cars, you can get away with that, like commercial vehicles. But with residential car detailing, it's about getting the right message across. If we know that they're preparing the car for sale, then our message should be focused on, well, next time you need to sell your car, or is your car still looking new? That's how we sort of reel them back into it. We do have the referral program, which Booking Quad offers. We haven't been using that as much as we should be using it until last month. I decided to be more proactive and include it in our email marketing campaigns. So that's something we want to test out as well. But I think it's just a matter of reminding customers, not about car detailing, but if you wash your car once or twice a year, it's not enough. But if I can share advice on tips on, top places to drive your car for the weekend, road trips around Sydney, I may not be selling it to them, but they took their car to the beach and now it's dirty, or they took it to a picnic, now the car's dirty. And they're like, hey, hang on, you guys do car detailing, I might as well go to you guys. So it's just subconsciously adding value to them without selling our business. So just being genuinely helpful.
That's a great way to put it. You're giving value in one way and planting it in their mind that you are the go-to for car detailing. Because if they followed that video and actually went on a trip that you recommended, well, now, like you said, their car is all muddy and whatnot. So why not call you guys up to take care of that as well?
Yeah, that's right. Like it's funny. It's like the story where a child and a father and son. Father had a window business, window repairs, and the son went throwing up rocks at people's windows. Right. I'm not saying we're doing the same thing, but we encourage people to go on more road trips, enjoy the weekends. Take your dog out. Now there's pet hair in my car, so um, sort of interlinked in their own ways, right? So
Absolutely. Muddy paws all over the seats that, you just had fun all weekend. Do you want to spend it now all week cleaning the inside?
exactly,
Probably
right.
not.
You want to come back and rest and relax until you have work the next day. You don't want to be spending that time to clean.
For sure. Strategies for managing growth. What are your best tips for that, and what do you kind of focus on?
Strategy for managing growth. Um, I guess it's like being able to communicate with our customers across different channels. Things like email marketing, which I mentioned before, paid ads. People spend so much time on their phones these days, and it's just being able to sort of uh, just engaging with them more often. Paid ads help you get more customers into your business, but retention comes through communication.
Going towards the revenue side of the business, do you know roughly how much revenue you've done since you've started in 2018?
Yep. So we didn't reach the 2018 we started. That first year was just myself testing the waters. So I guess from 2019 till now is about 2.6 million in revenue since then. Yeah.
And what are you expected to do this year?
This year I'm hoping to hit between 600 to about 1.2. Um, Last year was, I would have to say the last 2 years has been quite like, it's pretty much like cruise control. I sort of was cruising along, wasn't doing too much. Um, like last year got married, did a lot of traveling. We just bought a new house. So just had a lot of moving things going around. So now that I'm really focused on doubling down and focus on the business. So, yeah, I think this is the first year in a while where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to double down and let's get rolling. Like I'm more focused this year, so I'm going to set a high target.
What was the best year that you had?
I actually don't know. I think it may have just been after COVID, like because COVID just that was probably the biggest spike for us. And we came out of COVID with flying colors because we doubled down on everything. We, rather than tighten budget, we increased budget. That's a hard thing to do, right? Is when the economy's not doing so well, putting your more money into the economy or into your business seems illogical. Like, why would you? But I decided to go against the tide and thought long term, well, it's gonna pay dividends later on. So I think yeah, that's pretty much it there.
Definitely. Besides revenue, what other metrics do you look at to measure your success? I know you mentioned cancellation reports has been something that you look at, but besides those two, what else are you really trying to look at and hammer down to gauge that success and move forward with it?
Yep. So you also have the cancellation reports. That's a good one. Ratings and reviews. How are we tracking? Are we getting a lot of reviews? Something as small as uh, even a live chat widget where people converse on our website. People can review us and give feedback. That's also another way to track metrics. Core metrics. Are we getting abandoned calls? How often are we converting our leads? So conversion rate, tracking conversion optimization rate. So for every 10 leads that we get through, how many are we converting? Why aren't we converting? So Those are ways to measure success. But more importantly, outside of business, you need to measure success as a business owner. Are you happy? Right? I know it's a very vague question, but I like to say I live pretty happy because I've got an excellent work-life balance. I can take time off. I can travel. I can eat wherever I want. I don't really have that financial burden in that aspect. I'm not even a big spender. I'm not a brands guy, right? I'll probably spend more on basketball than anything, right? So that's what I enjoy. And if I'm able to travel a lot, and sleep, get my sleep, eat well, those are different underrated measures of success. Doesn't have to be business related, right? Your business can earn like $10 million a year, but are you happy? Right? I think that's the main thing you need to sort of ask yourself. And if you don't need that amount of money, then why are you stressing out so much over it to get a certain figure? So I guess lifestyle. How's your lifestyle? Right? I think that's one thing to sort of measure success is your lifestyle.
You stole it from me, and that is one of my favorite questions to ask anybody, especially when I interview or if I'm meeting somebody out for the first time, is, are you happy? Because just like you said, it's such a simple question, but
Mm.
nobody, I feel like, if they really think about it, I feel like everybody is just like, oh yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm fine, but like with everything going on in your life, like, are you truly happy, and are you fulfilled? Like you said, if you have your business is making $10 million a year, you pocket a lot of that. Are you happy with
Yeah.
it? Because you could still be miserable.
Yeah.
If you're constantly working 14, 16-hour days, sleeping 5 hours a night, and not taking care of yourself with healthy eating, not exercising, not spending time with family, like, can you truly say that you're happy having that lifestyle when there's nothing else beside it? I'm sure maybe a very small percentage of the population would say yes, but by and large, everybody else would say they're not. That everybody wants, or a lot of people want to start a business to make money, to have that freedom of time and be able to spend it with family, friends, and whoever else. So I would have asked it at the end, but we're not there yet. So are you happy? Are you personally happy with where you're at right now?
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually very grateful and fortunate to be in this position. It's been a tough journey to get here, but if you ask me, could I go back to 9 to 5, I could definitely say no. I said before, the main goal for this business was time, freedom, and control, and that's exactly what I have right now. But to make use of time, you need to have money, right? Now, I said before, I'm not a brand, or I don't chase shiny objects. I chase experiences, and with experience, you need time. So that's why I see everything work together. And you ask, how do you maintain your drive and your motivation whilst you travel again? So as long as you see what makes you happy, you can sort of reverse engineer. Well, how do I achieve that? I know traveling helps make me happy, but you need time and money. So I think that's the simplest way to put it. Someone who wants to, chase shiny objects, there's nothing wrong with that, but they may have a higher target to get there. But from my experience, chasing shiny objects is, I find, short lived. Right? It doesn't really. It's short lived happiness. Right? So that's that's, I guess, that will shape your happiness. Is what. Yeah, I think that's what shapes your happiness. Right? What's your goals and what makes you happy in life? Right? Experiences and whatnot. So yeah, I'd say I'm happy, but I do have more things I want to achieve and look forward to. Right? I also want to have family. Also want to, travel a bit more abroad to other places. So I do want to try living overseas I did think about living overseas for extended period of time. So that's been on my mind for quite a long time. I'd like to take that challenge. It's a bit different, but I think the experience should be well worth it.
Where were you thinking of trying this, living abroad?
Yeah, well, that's why I've been traveling so often. Is I've actually sort of immersed myself in different environments. I go there for leisure, right? But I also do extended stays where I actually just work, right? Just want to sort of see how it feels to live as a local. So I've tried like Japan, Vietnam, and Thailand are probably my three main destinations. I don't know, I particularly like Japan, but I would have to learn the language a lot more thoroughly. But English gets a lot further in, I'll say Thailand. And in Vietnam, obviously, that's my background. So sort of have roots there. So it's a lot easier to start off. But yeah, they're pretty much my three main options.
Anywhere else that you've traveled to that would be a consideration?
No, like I'm a creature of habit. Once I really like something, I just go all out on it. Like some people ask me, how can you eat the same food for lunch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for consecutive days, right? And it's because I love it. I eat until I'm sick of it. So with these destinations, I go there multiple times each year, is because I can bank on the fact that I enjoy it, right? I love it. I know I'm going to have a good time. I know what to expect. But you could always say, well, you're selling yourself short because you haven't explored everywhere else part of the world there. So I think there will be a time and place. I do want to travel to the US because I do want to watch an NBA game. So that's on my to-do list. So yeah, I think there will be an opportunity to travel for holiday purposes, but yeah, there will be a time.
If you come to the US, you shoot me an email and you let me know the dates, and we will have you come stay. We just got a new place for the business in downtown. It's nighttime now, so you can't see the view, but we got an awesome view, and we will treat you to a Bulls game when you're in. So that would definitely be something awesome because me and Phil are huge basketball guys as well. So I think that would be an awesome time for the three of us to go. Um, who's your favorite player current, and then who's your favorite player all time?
I actually don't have a favorite player now. Like when I first started watching basketball, Derrick Rose was hands down my favorite player. Um, just never seen anything like it. Right now, Wemby looks cool. But I don't know. He's just like a walking cheat code. It's so ridiculous. But I'd have to say Steph is probably the most exciting guy to watch. He just literally single-handedly changed the way basketball is played. Even when I play basketball nowadays, you run a fast break, you got kids shooting 3-pointers. Back in our day, you just go for the fast break layup, easy 2 point, easy bucket. All right. So game has changed completely, but I have to say, yeah, Steph is probably one of my favorite players right now to watch. And yes, I'll definitely take up on your offer if I'm in the area. Definitely would love to catch up over a beer and watch a game. Definitely would give that a go. Is that an office you're working at, or is that your apartment?
It's not my apartment, it's the business apartment. So we got it's the office in the apartment, but it's 1,500 square feet of apartment. Yeah. So there's something new for everybody who watches this podcast. Me and Phil are starting something new, actually, a personal podcast between the two of us, talking life, business, and some other things called the Koala Guys. So it's going to be released soon with a couple episodes. So stay tuned to watch that.
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you brought that up. I came across it yesterday on my Instagram. I just followed. I think you guys have like 4 followers right now, so I'm probably
me and Phil were talking about you. You are the first one to actually follow us, but there's nothing posted. It's just my account, Phil's account, and I think Booking Koala that follows that account. And he texted me. He's like, "You're never gonna believe it, but David actually followed the account." I was like, "There's nothing even posted on there. How does he know?" And he's like, "I don't know, but it must be a sign, if we got guys already following us and there's nothing posted, that's probably a good sign that good things to come."
No, I think you guys would like. You guys sound like down to earth guys. So I'd love to hear what sort of content you guys come up with. I know you guys haven't done anything, but I just want to sort of keep it on the hot list checklist there in future when you guys get the ball rolling. Love to tune in, hear some of your stuff. But it sounds like I have a few friends also getting to the podcast sort of side of things. So can definitely see where it can go. So hope all goes well there, guys.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we're gonna try and keep it as down to earth and just straightforward with the topics that we talk about. Nothing, outlandish takes or anything like that. Just simple, life lessons that we've kind of learned to share with people, and not this fluff that's all over social media now with gurus and things like that. So
Mm.
should be good. But financial management and planning, how do you plan for that, or how do you just prepare those things for, short term and long term?
Yep. I think the great thing about uh, running the platform like through Booking Koala and using contractors is you can sort of have a clear picture of where your finances are going. For example, you only pay you only pay your contractors when you get a booking, right? So if you have employees, if business is cold, you're still obligated to pay a salary and wage, right? So it's sort of a safe way of doing business through book line contractors, because you essentially only pay when you earn money, right? So that's a great way to look at it. In terms of management, it's pretty lean. Our operating costs aren't that high. Yes, paying contractors is the biggest expense, but that only comes with revenue. So that goes hand in hand. That's cool. But you're talking about marketing, hiring staff, like your tech stack, your software that you use, they're probably going to be the big things you will pay for. And then I don't like to view them as expenses; they're investments. Without them, I really love automations. I use Zapier, Integrately. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to automations. I'm always looking at how to build, how to automate all my processes from my CRM and etc. So they help me save time and help me save on my finances. But I don't really do too much financial planning, to be honest. As long as I'm in the green, I think that's a good way to look at it, and I can cover my, over expenses. But if I had extra money to put aside, it usually just goes into marketing and advertising. It just gets reinvested back into the business. So that's all it really is. Yeah, that's all I could really say for financial management. If you're talking about financial management outside of business, then yes, I leave money aside to, for my own wage, my own salary. I also invest in my superannuation. I think you guys call it 401s.
Mhm.
I also invest in the stock market. So just trying to find different ways of managing my finances through different channels, different revenue streams.
You touched on having to only pay out one of your biggest pieces of the pie, your contractors, right? It's only when you have bookings that are completed.
Yeah,
Um, to double on that, if you go the employee route, right? Like you said, wages you got to pay if they're working, but also if you give them insurance, health insurance, there's that. There's other things like they're great to do the employee route because you have that more control. They could wear, branded clothing, and you can tell them exactly what to do. But there's the flip side to that, and that's why the contractor model, and I don't want to say most, but a lot of people's eyes, is the better option to go. There's no
yeah,
right or wrong way to do it. If you're
definitely.
successful with either or, you're going to be successful, right? It's
Yeah,
the amount of work you put in and how dedicated you are to that route of that business model. But
yeah.
there are definitely pluses and minuses to both sides of that. What about managing risk? Are you a big advocate or proponent? Like, do you just focus on, okay, these are my risk factors. I need to calculate what I can do to minimize them, or do you kind of just go, well, I'll deal with it when it gets close?
Yeah. Sorry, just before I answer this question, I just want to add on what you last spoke about employees and contractors. Like fair enough, we make that business decision to hire one or the other, but you also depends on them as well. Some employees like the safe route, right? I'll rather someone else tell me what to do, supply me everything. I'll just follow the orders. That's great, right? But you've also got the flip side of people who want to be business owners themselves. They're contractors. They want the flexibility. They want if I want to take a holiday, I don't have to report to anyone, right? With cleaning products and equipment, I might like this machine better than your machine that you recommend or that you've given me because I'm so accustomed to this combination. I've been a cleaner or detailer for 20 years. Why would you want to, screw up my rotation of products and suppliers? This is my bread and butter. I'm accustomed to it. So there's no good and bad. It's just like some people want to work a 9 to 5 job. Some people want to be business owners. But business owners can say, are you up for, working 10 hours a day when you first start off? Are you up for time sacrifice? So some people want more, I want to, like my brothers, they've got family and kids. They're like, look, I don't have time to run a business. I'm happy to work for someone else. So it's not so much we make that impending decision. It comes down to the individual themselves, if that's what they want to do, employee or they want to be a contractor. So that's pretty much how I see it. And if you work with contractors, you can have a business-to-business sort of discussion. You want to run a business, I'm helping you achieve what you've always wanted to do. I'll fill in those gaps of your week. Leave that to me. That's how I see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In terms of managing risk, risk in terms of, let's say we have, availability, booking cancellations. Yes, we have risks in terms of that. Well, that's why we hire more people. So if one person can't do it, then the next person can do it, or the next person can do it. That's how we manage that sort of risk. It really depends what it is, right? If it's weather risk, well, why don't we introduce services that can be performed indoors? Example, that's why we introduced window tinting, right? So if it rains outside, but the car's parked in a garage, you're not really affected by that. So that's how I leverage that sort of weather risk. I don't choose to overcomplicate things and plan for things that don't happen. For example, if there's competition risk, that's fine. Focus on yourself, do better. I don't consider competition as risk. That's part of business. If anything, that makes your business even better, even stronger, more resilient. That's how you just diversify risk, offering different packages, new locations, expand your team. That's how you manage risk.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
Where do you see your business in the next 5 to 10 years?
I still think the business will still be strong in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't see it going anywhere. Car wash and car detailing has been here ever since cars were made, right? It's just the industry hasn't had a refresh, which is why the booking provider system works so well. When you think of car washes, people used to think you have to take it up to a car wash or a car detailing center, leave it there, and you sip on a coffee for a few hours, right? In this day and age, it's the do-it-for-you economy. So that I still think that's still going to be for the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know. Look, we've only expanded to 2 major cities. We haven't expanded to every other major city. That's room for growth. The question is, do I want to? Pretty much. I explained about happiness before. I'm pretty content where I am right now. I can probably take it up a notch, but like they say, more money, more problems, right? So sometimes you just got to draw the line where you're happy. If someone wants to come in as a partner and go, look, Dave, how about I expand to those major cities? Look, that could be a possibility as well. Or I could sell off the business. I think there's different avenues. Either sell the business, expand on it, take on a new partner, or, slowly grow it myself.
But for right now, you're happy with where you're at, and this is the year to double down.
Yeah, so I'm past the cruise control for the last 2 years. Before that was COVID. So you could say it was pretty much like a flat line for the last 2 to 3 years. So this year's like, you know what, let's sort of challenge myself and let's sort of double down and see where this goes.
I know you've talked about integrations with automations like Zapier and all of the other ones. So how big a role does tech play in your day-to-day business ops?
I say it plays a huge role. It's funny because like when people ask me like, oh, Dave, I didn't think you would do car detailing. You don't seem to be like a sort of car guy, right? I'm like, look, I do enjoy cars, but I'm not like, I'm not huge in the car scene. But behind the doors, I'm actually like more of a tech nerd. I like leaning up processes. I think more like I talk about human resources. Like you asked me before, what separates you from your competitors? And I said, it's my natural pool of talent. My sales team and my technicians. Well, who's working after hours? Your techies, right? That works 24/7. That's why it's so important, right? It's like the glue to the business. And it's stuff you can control, you can lean it up, you can improve it, and it's always changing. So I think tech is a big thing that needs to be sort of narrowed down in business. It's very important.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. And then we've already talked about how long you've been with Booking Koala.
Yep.
Top 25 from the beginning. What would you say drew you into using it? I know you mentioned your buddy kind of told you about it, but when you kind of looked into it, what were the big things that kind of sold you on that?
Yeah. So um, it came at a good time because I was looking for a solution. I initially was trialing Launch 27. I don't know if they're still I don't know if they're still around today. I actually haven't looked ever since. But I know they've changed through management and etc. But I had complications with their booking form, bit buggy and glitchy here and there. So I gave Booking Koala a go as well, and just seemed more seamless. I think the main thing that sold me was the regular updates. All right, it wasn't just the business that's like set and forget. It's more like we're going to keep tweaking this. Anytime I had feedback, we'd flick it over, like request a feature. You guys will keep a track of what gets processed, what's later down the track, and you guys probably have your own priority list of which ones worth fixing early, which are the main problems, what's the low hanging fruit. So that sort of resonated well with me, and the decision wasn't that hard to make. Once I finished my trial, I've stuck with you guys ever since. I haven't considered any other options, and just had to be patient because I knew you guys were growing as well, getting a huge subscriber list. Facebook communities growing by the day, is getting more active. So with that comes more requests, and so I just had to be patient, and I knew that you guys were making the right upgrade. So that was always encouraging to see. Support is always on the ball. I think look, shout out to Dimitri. He's always like any technical question that I have, he's always on the ball, very prompt. I send through a video, he replies back within 24 hours. So he's been very helpful. Really understands the business. I don't know if he's a tech guy on your side, but like I had questions about Facebook pixels the other day. And we'll just it was really cool to have someone that's knows the business inside out and very helpful.
Very technical. He is very technical and he loves to give in-depth answers. So we really appreciate him.
Yeah, give him a beer for me. He's doing an excellent job.
Definitely will. What would you say is your favorite feature?
I don't mean to sound vague, but it's just the overall booking and payment system, right? That is your core function, and you guys really got it down pat. So being able to schedule bookings, authorize payments, the pre-authorization hold is excellent. I really like that idea through the Stripe integration. Because it cuts a lot of the headache having those things. It's so simple, but that's by far the biggest winners. If you don't have that down pat, we're going to have 10 times the amount of complications moving forward. Everything else is icing on the cake. That's how I see it. It's just a bonus.
Excellent. And final question, what advice would you give your 10-year-old self with everything that you know now?
Start early. That would be my biggest regret. Actually, I don't know if I could even have started earlier, but I wish I could have. Yeah, I think that's the best advice is fail fast and learn just as quick. And just don't be so afraid of making mistakes. I think everyone's just so focused on not making mistakes and waiting for the perfect moment. But sometimes you got to create that perfect moment, right? And you just got to take what comes. And if you're waiting for the perfect moment, unfortunately, that moment is never going to happen. Maybe 1 in a million chances. So you just got to be out there and do it. So my advice would be to just to don't overthink and just do.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
David, thank you so much for your time and sharing your story with everybody and how successful your business has been. And from me, Phil, everybody from Booking Koala, we appreciate you being one of our valued customers and sticking with us from basically the beginning.
No, it's been a great journey. Look to continue this to bigger heights. I know. I think you just got married, but you and Phil just got married like maybe last year or something as well. So everyone's sort
Yes.
of on the same, I guess, same time of their lives. So it's exciting times. Hope all goes well with your podcast. But look, I do definitely want to take up on your offer on that uh, NBA game there, meet the team, and have just a down to earth sort of discussion. So I'll be tuned in. I'll forever be your Booking Koala top 25 and maybe your top 4 for your podcast as being the 4th follower.
Well, you'll be number one because the other 3 don't count. So you're number 1.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for your time, and everybody stay tuned next week for another episode of the Qualified Podcast.